Kevin Costner's story is not a typical rise and fall tale. It is the story of a man whose career has been shaped by obsession, independence, and an unshakable belief in his own vision. Costner was born on the 18th of January, 1955, in Linwood, California, the youngest of 3 boys in a working-class family that moved frequently because of his father's job. He grew up shy, restless, and unsure of his place in the world. Baseball was his first passion, not acting, and he spent most of his youth trying to figure out who he wanted to become. His interest in performing didn't develop until college, and even then, he had no clear plan. The turning point came when he met Richard Burton on a flight during his honeymoon. Costner asked him if an actor could live a normal, peaceful life. Burton told him it was possible if he loved the craft. Costner later said that one conversation pushed him to take acting seriously. He began working small jobs while studying acting at night. His first few film appearances were minor, often cut down or overlooked, but he kept going. His first major break came with Silverado in 1985, where his energy and charisma caught the attention of directors. 2 years later, The Untouchables and No Way Out pushed him to the center of Hollywood. These films cemented his image as the strong, calm, reliable American hero. His screen presence, quiet, firm, emotional without being sentimental, made him appealing to a wide audience. By the late 1980 seconds, he was considered one of the most bankable stars in the industry. He stepped into the 1990 seconds with an extraordinary streak. Bull Durham and Field of Dreams turned him into the face of American nostalgia, blending sports, emotion, and moral clarity. But the defining moment came with Dances with Wolves in 1990. Costner directed and starred in the film, a massive Western epic that almost everyone in Hollywood predicted would fail. Instead, it won 7 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Director. Costner became one of the only actors in history to win both as a first-time director. For a brief moment, his career was untouchable, and studios saw him as the new authority on large-scale American storytelling. For several years, he remained at the top with films like JFK, Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, The Bodyguard, and A Perfect World. His movies brought in hundreds of millions worldwide, and he became a cultural icon. However, this period of success created expectations that were almost impossible to maintain. His insistence on creative control, large budgets, and ambitious stories began to clash with Hollywood's shifting landscape. Critics also noted that Costner seemed determined to shape his own legacy through films centered on morality, leadership, and the mythology of the American West, even when audiences were moving toward different genres. The collapse came quickly. Beginning in 1995, Waterworld became one of the most expensive productions ever attempted, with delays, rewrites, weather problems, and constant negative press. Although the film eventually made its money back internationally, it was widely labeled a flop and a symbol of Hollywood excess. 2 years later, The Postman intensified the criticism. Costner directed and starred again, but the film was attacked harshly for its tone, its length, and what critics called self-indulgence. The failure damaged his reputation and pushed him out of the Hollywood spotlight. For the next decade, he worked steadily but without the same impact. Films like Wyatt Earp, Message in a Bottle, 13 Days, and Open Range had mixed results. While some performed well, none restored his status as the industry's dominant leading man. Costner entered the 2000s in a far quieter phase. The blockbuster era had shifted toward franchises and superhero films that did not match his interests. He continued acting, directed occasionally, and explored more restrained roles, such as his darker turn in Mr. Brooks. But overall, he had become a veteran presence rather than a central figure. His personal life also went through changes. He divorced his first wife in 1994 after 16 years of marriage, remarried in 2004, and continued balancing family with a career that no longer guaranteed major opportunities. Even then, he remained committed to the themes he loved: the West, American identity, and stories about dignity, land, and responsibility. Everything changed again in 2018 with the launch of Yellowstone. Taylor Sheridan's modern Western series tapped directly into Costner's strongest screen qualities. As John Dutton, he played a powerful rancher fighting to protect his land and legacy. The role revived his public image and introduced him to a new generation of viewers. The show became one of the most watched dramas on television and re-established Costner as a leading force. But this comeback also set the stage for the next major controversy in his career, one that involved scheduling disputes, financial risks, personal strain, and the most ambitious project he had ever attempted. Costner's return to mainstream prominence through Yellowstone positioned him once again as a cultural figure, but it also created a conflict that would define the next chapter of his life. During the show's peak years, Costner began pursuing a long-planned personal project, Horizon, an American saga. He had been developing the concept since the late 1980 seconds, but studios never supported the idea because of the scale and cost. After the success of Yellowstone, Costner believed he finally had the momentum to bring it to life. He decided to finance much of the film himself, investing tens of millions of dollars, reportedly mortgaging a beachfront property and taking significant financial risks to keep the production moving. Horizon was not a single film, but a multi-chapter Western epic structured around the settlement of the American frontier. Costner planned several installments, each requiring large budgets, long shooting schedules, and extensive resources. This decision quickly created tension with the producers of Yellowstone. The show required Costner's availability for specific filming windows, but Horizon demanded long stretches of time. Reports emerged that scheduling conflicts escalated into disagreements over priorities, contracts, and script delivery. Some insiders claimed Costner wanted to reduce his shooting days for Yellowstone to focus on Horizon. Others argued that production delays on the series affected his ability to balance both projects. Regardless of which account is accurate, the outcome was clear. Costner and the Yellowstone team reached a breaking point. In 2023, it was confirmed that he would not return for the final episodes of the series. For audiences, it was a surprising turn, as John Dutton had become one of the most recognizable roles of his career, but Costner appeared determined to commit fully to his own film. Financially and creatively, Horizon became the center of Costner's life. He directed, co-wrote, produced, and starred in the project. Part 1 was released in 2024, but struggled at the box office, performing far below expectations. Although the film presented the themes Costner valued community, survival, hardship, and the Western spirit, the audience response was limited, and critics were divided. The film's performance raised questions about the viability of the remaining chapters. Costner, however, continued defending the project, stating publicly that he believed in the long arc of the story and that the full impact would only be understood once all installments were complete. Despite his confidence, financial pressure increased as the cost of completing future chapters remained uncertain. During the same period, Costner's personal life also became the subject of public scrutiny. In 2023, his wife of nearly 2 decades, Christine Baumgartner, filed for divorce. The separation quickly escalated into legal disputes involving child support, living arrangements, and financial disclosures. The case attracted extensive media attention, partly because it overlapped with Costner's departure from Yellowstone and his investment in Horizon. Documents referenced the large personal sums he had committed to the film, revealing how deeply he had tied his financial stability to the project. The divorce concluded, but the timing highlighted how unstable and demanding this period had become for him. Compounding these issues, Costner also faced legal challenges connected to Horizon. A dispute emerged between him and New Line Cinema over the film's production and distribution agreements. There were reports of disagreements about financing terms, back-end compensation, and the structure of future installments. Additionally, a stunt performer filed a lawsuit alleging safety concerns during the filming of Horizon Chapter 2, creating another layer of complications. Although these legal matters were separate from the creative aspects of the film, they contributed to the overall impression that Costner was navigating one of the most difficult stretches of his professional life. Despite the setbacks, Costner expressed that he remained committed to completing all chapters of Horizon. He believed the story represented a part of American history that deserved to be told at full scale, even if modern audiences did not immediately respond to the traditional Western format. His attachment to the material was consistent with the themes that had defined his career. From Dances with Wolves to Open Range to Yellowstone, Costner had repeatedly returned to narratives about land, identity, and the American frontier. Horizon was, in many ways, the ultimate expression of those interests, built not for trends or box office success, but for a legacy he had been shaping for decades. By 2024, Kevin Costner found himself in a complicated position. His once stable public image had shifted. His departure from a hit series raised speculation. His most ambitious project had yet to prove itself financially. His personal life had undergone a public and painful transition, and the legal disputes surrounding his film added another layer of uncertainty. Yet, at the same time, his career showed a level of persistence and independence rarely seen in Hollywood. He remained active, visible, and determined to control his own narrative rather than depend on the studios or trends that had defined other parts of his career. What actually happened to Kevin Costner is the culmination of his long-standing traits: a commitment to large-scale storytelling, a refusal to abandon the classical Western form, and a willingness to take personal risks to make the projects he believes in. His career has moved from major stardom to quiet stretches to high-profile reinvention, only to circle back to a personal creative battle. Costner has not disappeared or faded away. Instead, he has centered his life on an epic he has been trying to tell for nearly 4 decades, accepting that the cost, personal, financial, and professional, will be his own to carry.